Hello, good morning, everyone, and welcome to this webinar with the Spain-US Chamber of Commerce and with Inspiralia. My name is Juan Carlos Pereira, Executive Director at the Spain-US Chamber of Commerce in Miami, and it's a pleasure being with you today. Before anything else, I encourage you, if you have not done before, to check in our website all the events that we are hosting. We host many webinars every week, touching many different topics. So please take a look to our website. I'm gonna send the website right now. You can see it on your control panel, and you can share under events all the events that we are hosting these days. Today we have with us Inspiralia, and some of you might know them for all the webinar that we hosted a couple of weeks ago. And we have with us today Mériem Britel and Dr. Richard McKay. So just to tell you a little bit about Inspiralia, they are a new product development company, and they offer services to cover all research and development products, from concept development to market launch, focusing also on obtaining public funding. Mériem Britel has more than 10 years of professional experience working with startups and is acting as account manager for Inspiralia in the US. She has previously been working with hundreds of successful research and development projects in Europe and Africa, and has a strategic vision of non-dilutive funding internationally. She will be presenting today how to access non-dilutive funding at the SBIR, the Small Business Innovation Research Program, together with her colleague, Dr. Richard McKay. Dr. Richard McKay has a PhD in cell and molecular biology and experience working at companies small and large, from startups to major healthcare companies. Has over 25 years of experience with biotech and healthcare innovation. At Inspiralia, he and his team have worked with over 100 of life science companies to help transform their disruptive ideas into reality with the support of NIH. And so welcome, both of you, today, this morning. And before we start with the webinar, just a couple of housekeeping information. So the presentation, it will go straight to the point, and it will last approximately 20-25 minutes, just that. And after that, we will be more than happy to answer questions. So if any of you have any question during the webinar, you can send us the questions through the chat box that you will find in your control panel, in the control panel of this GoToWebinar application. It should be on your right side of the screen, and you will see a name there saying questions. You can click there, it will open a box, and you can write any question that you have during the webinar and also after the webinar. And once we finish with all the presentation, we will go and answer that. Also, this webinar is being recorded, so we will share the video with all the people registered in it. You will receive a follow-up email a couple of hours after the webinar ends with the link with the video, with the presentation, and also with the contact information from Mériem and Inspiralia, just in case you have additional questions and you would like to address those questions directly to them. So without further ado, thank you so much, everyone, to be here with us today. And Mériem, I'll leave you with the audience. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Juan Carlos, for the introduction. So, as introduced by Juan Carlos, today we'll be focusing on the SBIR program, which is the biggest source of non-dilutive funding for small businesses. So I will go through the program structure, the program requirements, and spend some time on the open opportunities that are available until the end of the year with the help and support of my colleague, Dr. Richard McKay. So just before we start, and so you know that, at Inspiralia, we help startups speed up their technology development. Among the services that we offer, we help them with non-dilutive funding for R&D. So among the tools available, we focus mostly on the SBIR because the SBIR is the largest source of non-dilutive funding for startups with $3.3 billion budgets. It has been working with the same rules and structure since 1982. The SBIR as well funds all project costs, so direct and indirect costs, and as well allows the participant and awardees to have a small commercial margin out of their budgets. So definitely it's a good option to think of for new product development. Yeah, so before entering into the program details, I wanted to spend some time as well on the eligibility requirements. So for you to be able to think of applying at the SBIR, you must have a legal entity, which must be a small business, obviously, because SBIR is focused only on small businesses and startups with less than 500 employees. Within the company, you must have a PI, a principal investigator. This one must be, of course, employed by the business and work at least 51% of his time within the company. The PI will be the one, the project leader afterwards during a potential project execution. Just so you know, within the SBIR, you are allowed to subcontract up to 1/3 of the activities to other companies or parties. Obviously, all this public money must be spent in the United States. And as a participant, your company legal entity must have a physical address. So no virtual offices are allowed for registration purposes and application on the internet, on their portal. Okay? So yeah, let's jump to the next slide, which is about the program structure. So SBIR, as you could see, because of the budget, it's a huge program. It is participated by 12 agencies or departments, but they all have something in common, which is this structure. So 3 phases within the program. Phase one usually is for concept development. It's a small project which can go from 6 to 12 months of project duration, and the grants could be between $150,000 up to $256,000. Then once you are successful in phase 1, you would like to apply and go to the phase 2. So the phase 2, they are mainly meant for prototype development and demonstration of the technology. Usually it is a 2 years project with an average budget and grant of 1 million, which can go up to 1.6 million at NIH or DoD. Then you have the phase 3. The phase 3, usually there's no direct funding, but it is meant for new tools and opportunities for the SBIR winners. What you should know is that because of the size of this program, you will gain a huge visibility as an SBIR winners, and a lot of all kinds of private actors and stakeholders will definitely contact you for any kind of opportunity, maybe investment or new project, adaptation of your technology to the needs or potential new clients. Very important for you to know at the SBIR within this structure, you can apply and you can have several projects under evaluation at the same time and apply to different agencies at the same time. As well, very important for you to know, usually as a general rule, you cannot go directly to phase 2 or phase 3. But obviously, there are some exceptions, and in some agency, you can be allowed to go directly to phase 2. But the common rule is that you should start from phase 1 and go through the whole process. let me jump to the next slide. Yeah, so to conclude, we can say that the SBIR, to be able to apply to the SBIR, you must obviously have an eligible company with the team and staff available for potential projects, with the facilities and offices to be able to perform the project, and the time as well to be committed to that project and be able to get the results out of it. And as well, definitely what you must have a good project idea, which is innovative, focused, with a serious plan behind and plan of action to achieve your aims and objective, and focus with a potential impact on commercialization in the market. So as anticipated, at the beginning, the SBIR is participated by 12 departments or agencies. So those department of agencies, you have the logos here. The first one is Department of Health and Human Services, which is which englobes the NIH. Then you have the National Science Foundation, the Department of Defense, Department of Energy, USDA, Department of Education, 12 of them. So those 12 agencies, they work on the same program structure, phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3, but they have their own budgets, and they have also their own calendar. As well, we can divide them between bottom-up agencies or top-down agencies. I will tell you the difference. So basically, bottom-up agencies are the kind of agencies which are usually quite broad and wide. As long as you can fit within their business sector, you can submit more or less any idea you want. Why? The top-down agencies are agencies where you have to go through a topic text and the details of the topic text and address a problem, propose your solution to address the problem expressed by the department. So now in the next slides, I will go through, together with my colleague Richard, all the agencies and departments that are still open from now until the end of the year. So you have a clear picture of the calendars and still open opportunities for 2020. Yeah, so the first slide is about the Department of Defense. The Department of Defense is the biggest department in terms of budget and project opportunities in the US. Just for you to have an idea, DoD absorbs 1/3 of the total budget of the SBIR. It covers a lot of sectors and is not directly linked to only military application or technologies. Usually at DoD, we'll be looking at top-down project opportunities. That means that they release several times a year a topic of or a list of topics with a specific problem or new technologies that they are looking for. So at DoD, you have 3 opportunities per year. It's usually always in February, July, and lastly, the next one in October. So within DoD, they have a specific agency, which is called Earthworks. And Earthworks is quite unique because Earthworks is bottom-up. So at Earthworks, the Air Force would be, you can submit any kind of technology that Air Force could be using as an end user. The goal of the phase 1 is usually to perform a small feasibility study and identify an Air Force customer. Then you have to go through the phase 2 project, where there is a potential grant of 1 million to adapt and demonstrate the technology with an Air Force stakeholder. So the Air Force is a bottom-up program where you can submit any kind of proposal as long as obviously it is innovative and falls into their interest. And just for you to know, the next opportunity will close on October 22nd. Then the next slide is about the Department of Energy. So the Department of Energy, we can say that it is a top-down program. So they release a list of topics with very specific project opportunities once a year, and you have 2 opportunities per year, one in February and one in October. So next opportunity will be on October 13th this year. Then another agency which is still open for 2020 will be USDA or the Department of Agriculture. So at USDA, we can say that it is a top-down agency because they release topics. They release their own topics every 2 years. So here you have the categories of topics that will be available and open for 2020. And they have one deadline per year. So this year they will be focusing on forest, plant production, animal production, conservation of natural resources, and so on. So these are the main focus for USDA this year. The next submission window will close on October 21st, 2020 this year, so within a few months. Then the next agency is NIH. So I will let my colleague, Dr. Richard McKay, tell you more about it, because he's in fact in charge of the Health and Services Department at Inspiralia. So he will give you more details on the next agencies. Please go ahead, Richard.
Okay, great. Thanks, Mériem. Appreciate the introduction. Yeah, so you know, as Mériem said, I'm more on the health side, and NIH, as you know, is a part of the Department of Health and Human Services. It's got a number of different institutes and centers, each of which specializes on a particular healthcare issue. I'm sure you've heard of the National Cancer Institute. National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases has gained a lot of press lately. Anthony Fauci heads up that agency. Heart, Lung, and Blood. There are actually agencies dedicated to things like alcoholism, drug abuse, bioengineering, minority health, pretty much anything under the sun that's health related, you'll find at NIH. So that's, you know, as Mériem said, that's bottom up. They also do some top down where they're asking for very specific initiatives and very specific proposals. For instance, they have a very large brain initiative that's meant to help study the brain as a whole organ. They've got a big initiative to help combat opioid use and the opioid epidemic in the country. But they have the open calls for SBIRs 3 times a year in January, April, and September. So September 7th is the next one, which is coming up, followed quickly by one in January 5th. NIH is a pretty big agency. They give out about $31 billion in extramural grant funding. So I think that's second only to the DoD. They dedicate $870 million of that to small businesses. So there's a lot of money out there for you guys. And one of the things that they do is they help fund not just preclinical and non-clinical studies, but they can also help you fund your clinical trials as well. Little bit, you know, every agency is different. One thing about the NIH is they're fairly conservative. They like to fund things that have a pretty good certainty of success. They're not funding a lot of pie in the sky kind of things. So, you know, as Mériem said, phase 1 is to look at demonstrating feasibility, and phase 2 is more towards advancing your product towards commercialization. Depending on the product, you could be at commercialization ready by the end of phase 2, or if it's something more complex like a therapeutic that requires clinical trials and things of that sort, phase 2 may only get you part of the way there. But in general, the funding is for all these SBIRs is for a small project to advance your product towards commercialization. It's not, just to be clear, it's not like investor money that you can spend any way you want. It's really got to be for project-related costs. Okay, so that's the NIH in a nutshell. NSF is the next agency that I'll be talking about. So NSF is the National Science Foundation. Also bottom up, they're fairly large, $8.3 billion in research funding in 2020. Over 200 million of that is dedicated to small businesses. Unlike the NSF, unlike the NIH, the NSF is less conservative. They actually require a high degree of technical risk in your project. If it's small incremental improvements or those types of things, that's not the kind of thing that the NSF is looking for. So they're looking for high risk, high reward, highly innovative projects. Again, a wide variety of topics, including healthcare, but well beyond healthcare. So med devices, digital health, AI, materials science, energy, nanotech, space, pretty much anything under the sun that's science related, not just health related, is the kind of thing that NSF funds. NSF is nice because they have 4 submission windows, but they use rolling deadlines rather than hard deadlines, so you can submit anywhere during that deadline period, which is really nice, or anytime during that window. And again, like all the SBIRs, these are non-dilutive, no equity or IP rights are taken by the government. They understand that you're a business and you're looking to eventually make money, and they want to help you put good products on the market. Okay, so on the next slide, I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the COVID-specific applications. And a number of agencies are responding very quickly to the COVID situation. For instance, Earthworks, you could submit, earlier in the year, they had a COVID-specific call. You can also submit COVID-related opportunities or projects to their open topics call. So that's a good place for you guys if you have a COVID-related topic. NIH obviously is responding very quickly to COVID-related projects. They've actually received a huge sum of money, $1.7 billion beyond their typical 2020 funding. There are several SBIR solicitations available specifically funding COVID-related projects. And there's many what they call notices of special interest, where they're letting people know what kinds of things that they are looking for, whether it's therapeutics or diagnostics or and it could be artificial intelligence kind of projects as well, to be predictive types of projects. So the NSF is doing something really nice. They're in addition to opening themselves up to COVID-related projects, they have really accelerated the review process for COVID-related projects. So again, open rolling submissions in these open window periods, but they're looking to get those back to you within 6 weeks of submitting the proposal. So they're looking for a real fast turnaround. So that's really nice. And then finally, there's an agency that we haven't really talked about, and that's called BARDA. BARDA is actually part of HHS, so the same organization that NIH is under. BARDA is Biomedical Advanced Research and Development Authority. They're about developing medical countermeasures and stockpiling things that can help relieve emergencies such as chemical emergencies, biological emergencies. What they've done here is they said all the stuff that we usually fund, we're not funding that. We're only funding COVID-related things. So and you may have seen in the news that, for instance, Moderna received $483 million from BARDA for an mRNA vaccine, and I think more recently, AstraZeneca received $1 billion to help them develop a vaccine. But BARDA is also funding small projects as well. So I doubt any of you are billion-dollar companies, but you know, they are accepting small projects as well. So they're dedicating a lot of money to that. Things like diagnostics, therapeutics, vaccines, ventilators, even remote patient monitoring or advanced manufacturing technologies for manufacturing therapeutics or vaccines. Yeah, BARDA is turning it around fairly fast too. Okay, so on the next slide, there's just a little bit of a timeline, and you can see all of the different agencies and their deadlines. You can see the NSF deadline and the NIH deadlines coming up in September. You know, DOE and USDA coming up in October and November, and the Earthworks coming up in October. You know, so those kinds of, this is just a general timeline of the deadline, plus the, yeah, I guess there's another DOE in January as well. One thing to remember when you're thinking about submitting an SBIR, there's a lot of government registrations that you need to do, and you need to be aware that this takes time. This is a process where the government does not move quickly. So you want to get these registrations started early. They can take, believe it or not, up to 6 to 8 weeks to get all your registrations done. So if you're thinking of submitting an SBIR, start these registrations early. The other thing I would say is start your preparation early. This is not something that you can throw together in a week. You're not going to put together a competitive proposal. You know, there's a lot of things that go into the proposal in addition to the research plan, a lot of ancillary documents, and you know, I sit on review panels and we look at these things very carefully. So you know, so the idea is spend a lot of time on that. Anyway, so yeah, and then the proposal evaluation can take several months. So before you get your money, it would take several months of review and by the agency to decide who's actually going to get funded. Okay, on the next slide, I just wanted to talk about some of our success stories real briefly. These are a couple of companies that Inspiralia has worked directly with. For instance, CATS, we helped them get an NSF for their water purification technology. This is a kind of a green purification technology. It's environmentally friendly, and it can help purify water directly at the website, at the well site. And another one we helped get an NSF was FarmSense. They're developing a full end-to-end platform for real-time agricultural insect surveillance. They use IoT technology. The idea is you're reducing crop loss by better monitoring of insect infestation, and you're minimizing pesticide use. So the NSF really liked that project. One of the companies we're really proud of is HALA. HALA, we've actually, and this is something Mériem talked about, where you can get funded from different agencies for either different parts of the same project or completely different projects. So HALA has been funded through NSF, Department of Energy, as well as the Air Force. What they do is they have a cloud-connected kind of brain to help distributed energy generation units on a microgrid to help them to streamline microgrid deployment, make them resilient and adaptable to situations. So, you know, you should be thinking about multiple different agencies and how they can all help you. So, so that's a little bit about some of the other agencies that Mériem did not cover. I'm going to hand it back to Mériem, and she's going to talk a little bit about Inspiralia, and then we're going to take some questions.
Thank you, Richard. Yeah, so before going straight to the question, I wanted to say a few words about our company, Inspiralia. So our headquarters in the US, they are in Miami. In Miami, we also have offices in Boston and Houston, and we are a team of 30 people. We belong to a European company, which is as well called Inspiralia, with headquarters in Europe, in Madrid. Within the group Inspiralia, we are 116 total. And just for you to have an idea as well of the size of the company, we have a turnover of 25 million. What else? 1/3 of the employees, they are PhDs and doctors. So with a strong technical background, so they have the ability to fully capture our clients' need and understand their objectives and technology. Finally, so far we've managed to secure more than $600 million for our clients, and we work mainly on a hybrid fee model. Yeah, so this is about us. So yeah, the presentation is now finished, and so I'll start going through your question. Maybe before going directly to the question, I don't know if anyone would like to add anything. Richard, on your side?
No, that's it. Just happy to answer any questions you may have.
Okay. Okay, yeah, so the first question I have is, hi, will you be sending the presentation? The answer is yes. The Chamber of Commerce will send you a follow-up email afterwards during the day, and will as well attach the presentation that we have been seeing today. What is the price of the services of Inspiralia? So as I briefly told you now, we work on a hybrid fee model. I go through this quick slide just for you to understand our fee structure. So so usually we will charge a phase 1 writing fee for us to do your registration, write your proposal from scratch, adapt, if needed, your proposal to another agency so we can maximize the funding of it. And in case we are not successful as a first attempt, we would offer a free edit of your proposal. Then, if the phase 1 is successful, we would charge a small commission on the phase 1 grant that you would receive. With the commission, we will be supervising your project execution, and we will be helping you out with the financial administration and the reporting and all the reporting and deliverable monitoring of your projects. And we will let you focus on the technical execution of your projects. Then, of course, before phase 1 ends, we will anticipate the work and start working closely with you on the phase 2 writing, where we would again invoice a writing fee here. And again, if the phase 2 is successful, we would charge you a percentage on the grant to supervise the project execution and make sure that everything goes smoothly. So let me go to, are the green card holders allowed to apply to the SBIR? Sure, a green card holder is allowed to apply to the SBIR, but then you should have in mind that really the applicant is not an individual. The applicant is the company. So the company must be a US majority owned, and then the PI can be anyone contracted with the legal right to work within the company. What does non-dilutive funding mean? Non-dilutive funding means public funding, means money that you don't have to give back, and yeah, that's money that they would grant you for free with nothing in exchange, just for you to be able to develop your technology and be closer to the market.
Right, and just to add to that, it also doesn't dilute your equity. So they're not looking, it's not like when a VC invests in you where they take some equity in your company. This is, there's no equity taken.
Yeah, thank you for that. Must the PI be a US citizen or green card holder? Not necessarily. The PI, he must have the legal right to work in the US, and he must be employed. So by this, any person with any kind of visa can potentially be a PI. But again, the eligibility, the applicant is the company, not really the PI. Then we have another question dealing with the PI. The requirement is that the PI must work at least 51% in the project. Could the PI be the owner of the company and not be in payroll, or must be a worker from different from the owner? I don't know if you'd like to maybe take the question on this, and Richard?
Yeah, sure. Absolutely, the owner is, as long as they're employed by the company and paid by the company, they are allowed to be PI. You know, so that's not an issue. They don't have to be they don't have to be. It can be any employee, including the owner. But one thing we do look at for the principal investigator is that they should be highly qualified technically to carry out the technical work that's being presented, and sometimes that is not the CEO or the owner, because sometimes that person is more of a business person.
Okay. Then we have another question, which is, let's say that I have an idea that I believe could fit in one of the agencies you mentioned. How can you help me getting the funding for R&D? So if you believe you have a potential project that could fit within the SBIR, you can definitely contact us. And usually what we would do from Inspiralia is that we will be performing a free validation of your project. So we'll try to understand the technology that you have, where you are, where would you like to be, and what are the technical objectives of it. And then we will go and go through all the open agencies and scan for you the best opportunities within the 12 agencies. So this is what we would do. If we and then obviously if the idea is innovative enough, if you have, we'll be looking at the team and the company and the technology, and then if it is innovative enough and good enough, we could potentially work together and support you in the phase 1 writing, phase 1 submission, registration, and all the process. Then we have another question. Should companies be registered before they engage with Inspiralia? I would say that not necessarily. Not necessarily. You don't have to be registered before engaging with us as a company, because as I said previously, before going further in a potential relationship with a client, we will always first do a validation of your project. So to understand the team, the company, the technology, how disruptive it is, what kind of challenges it covers, and everything before engaging as well with a potential client. Then we have the last question, which is, the funds are mainly for science related or can be related to innovative social or marketing business developments? The funds, they are for technology development. So the funds, they will be available for you to further develop the technology, to demonstrate the feasibility of your technology, and scale it up. So the grant is not available for you to do business development, neither marketing or activities. It is mainly focused on the technology itself and the product development behind. Yeah. So yeah, this is it about this last question. I don't know if maybe Rich, you would like to add something on the funds?
Yeah, I mean, you know, so they are funding a project, and it's a project that needs to fit within the agency's mission. So if you are funding, say, or if you're building, say, a new social media application, that's not going to fit within any of the agency's funding opportunities. But if you're funding a social media application that was meant to support, for instance, disease sufferers or patients or things like that, that could potentially fall under, for instance, the NIH. So so it's really about science projects that fit, or technology development projects that fit within the agency's core mission.
Thank you for that, Richard. Yeah, so this is the introduction about the SBIR and the tools available for you to develop your technology. So we hope you found this presentation interesting. As we told you, we will share the presentation with everybody afterwards. So so yeah.
Well, yes, thank you so much, Mériem, and thank you, Richard, for being with us today. As always, it's been a pleasure, and we would like to help as much as we can to grow small businesses and to help entrepreneurs to get funding for their great ideas. And companies like yourself, like Inspiralia, are great in these times, because you can help many geniuses that are out there that have great ideas, but they don't have the resources to make those ideas true. And there are a lot of agencies in the US with money enough to fund those ideas. So thank you so much for being there, and we are happy to help as much as we can.
Thank you.
Thanks for the opportunity. Appreciate it.
Sure, anytime. And for the rest of you, again, thank you so much for spending these minutes with us. I hope that this have been very useful for you. And again, I just encourage you to check our website, and you will be able to check the website on your control panel on your right side, and check for all the events that are coming. We have another webinar tomorrow about real estate and how it's impacting the COVID-19 to real estate, and see the points of view from the tenants and lenders, and also some other webinars for next week and the rest of the month. So thank you again, everyone. Thank you, Mériem. Thank you, Richard. It's been a pleasure having you both here. And stay safe, everyone. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.